What do we mean by the people of the book? The book can mean a lot of different things, including the Bible, but it's also an advice book for travelers, passed on from one person to another as they make their way along. The idea took off and spread like proverbial wildfire from Bolivia to Brazil, Chile, Argentina, Peru, and South America. Behind it, behind the book, is a certain ethic of global traveling, trumpeted by Israelis. Go far, stay long, and see deep. Just as serving in the army is a rite of passage for young Israelis, taking off to see the world is just as important a milestone upon discharge from the military. When it comes to Israelis, there's a certain sense of, let's call it wanderlust, deriving from very real physical and diplomatic isolation. Let's face it, in a state that's about the size of New Jersey, there's not a lot of places you can go. And there's nothing more emblematic of isolation than the notorious Arab boycott. The first such boycott started back in 1891 when Arabs in the region approached the Ottomans to stop Jewish immigration to Palestine and stop selling Jews land in Palestine. When the Fifth Palestine Congress convened in 1922, they decided to boycott all Jewish business. Then in 1933, the Nazis notoriously enacted their own version of a general boycott of Jewish businesses. In fact, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, was in those years a close confidant of Adolf Hitler. And he coordinated with Germany's Fuhrer to launch a genocidal campaign against the Jews. In 1943, while World War II was still raging, the 22 nations of the Arab League banned all products made by Palestinian Jews. They also banned products from any country buying or selling to the Jews of Palestine. And that came to be known as the secondary boycott. They even targeted companies from yet other nations that traded with those countries. And that became known as the tertiary boycott. As we see in actual documents like this one, from the League of Arab States, they wanted to make it as broad and as damaging as possible. A good many countries around the world decided that the best thing to do would be to comply with the boycott. That included Japanese and Korean car makers. And companies such as Honda, Toyota, Mazda, Mitsubishi decided they just weren't going to sell to what became the new state of Israel. Let's face it, after all, there are a lot more Arabs to sell cars to than Jews. The one exception was Subaru. They pronounce it in Israel Subaru, which lost its market share in the Arab world in order to sell cars to Israel. And that's why in Israel, Subarus were everywhere. Among those blacklisted were the Baha'i faith, the headquarters of which was located in Haifa. And that little factoid earned them a place on the blacklist. Believe it or not, The Disney film Sleeping Beauty was also added to the blacklist. Why? Because the horse in that movie was named after the biblical character Samson. Ooh, how sinister. Israel had to figure out a way to circumvent the whole Arab world, to open markets far away. The emphasis was on developing small products that could easily be exported, and other products that have no physical dimensions at all. And so Israel became a leader in internet technology and in developing software and in computer technology, which started with Weizsäck, Israel's first computer. And it all blossomed into a telecommunications powerhouse. Israel found itself exporting to distant markets all over the world, from India to South Africa to China to Japan. Israeli globetrotting was paying off big time. Bear in mind, small anonymous components would be the key. Israel's new economy would be knowledge and innovation based. Yes, the Arab boycott hurt, costing Israel around $100 billion. But the attributes gained from the boycott were beyond value. It's a classic case of turning adversity into profit. Israel managed to integrate itself into China, India, and Latin America. Take China as an amazing case study. China, unlike continental Europe, has no legacy of hostility toward Jews. And that's where Israelis developed the third largest social networking site in the world, called Kulanu, meaning in Hebrew, all of us. The company was actually founded by an Iraqi Jewish family, beginning as a strictly Jewish internet site. But the management subsequently moved to China, and the whole thing took off. Little Israel got way ahead of its competitors in far-flung markets like these. Basically, Israelis had to learn how to leapfrog the whole Middle East. And that's where we find the connection with Israel's post-army backpackers, who regularly take off to travel far and wide after they're discharged. In fact, many Israelis have visited at least a dozen countries by the time they're 35 years old. Let's have a look at one company that started out with a simple, practical idea and learned to export it the world over. It's called Netafim, and it's all about irrigating crops with nothing more than little drips of water. Say hello to drip irrigation. Thanks to Netafim, thanks to Israeli Wanderlust, we have a company that's the largest provider of drip irrigation in the world. Its creator, Simcha Blas, who served as chief engineer back in the 1930s, for Israel's water company called Mekorot, meaning sources. He was responsible for building a pipeline and canal from the Jordan River and the Sea of Galilee down to the Negev desert in the south of Israel. And then one day he caught sight of a tree growing out in the desert where there ought not to be any trees. He figured out that the tree was drawing its water from a slow leak in a pipe. And suddenly the light bulb turned on. He worked out a deal with the nearby kibbutz, Hatzerim, for production of a series of pipes that would slowly drip water into crops. Drip irrigation was born. The result: crop yields increased by 40% using 50% less water. Thanks to Israeli globetrotting, the system is now employed in 110 countries, including the former Soviet Muslim states and South Africa. Great ideas abound in Israel, but it's also about selling the Israeli economy. Meet John Medved, a Zionist organizer. While his lifelong passion was to promote Zionism, he was told that what Israel needs most is business people. So he began selling the optical technology developed by his own father. He went on to develop Israel's Seed Partners, a venture capital firm that began in his own Jerusalem garage. He's preached far and wide about Israel's economy. The motto being, Israel inside. These days, Israel is inside just about everything. Computers, cell phones, medical devices, miracle drugs, social networks, clean energy sources, food, cash registers, you name it. The pitch? Israel is inside almost everything we touch because almost every company we touch is inside Israel. Are you? Other pitchmen sell specific companies. His idea is just sell Israel. Capitalism, after all, is not a zero-sum game in which somebody else's larger piece of the pie takes away from your own slice. No, it's all about increasing the size of the whole pie, and that's an idea that sells.